We'll call the meeting to order for legislative session 2018-18, August 13, 2018, for the Wicomico County Council. Those that like to stand and join us in the Lord's Prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, please do. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, Mrs. Hurley. How are you?
Good morning, Council President, council members, ladies and gentlemen. For your consideration this morning is Resolution Number 82, 2018, proposing an amendment to Section 413 of the Wicomico County Charter. Last week, it was brought to my attention that the proposed amendment to Charter Section 315 that was adopted on July the 3rd may conflict with Charter Section 413. After discussing this matter with Mr. Taylor and the Council President, it was decided that Section 413 should also be amended. The proposed amendment that's on the council table is slightly different than what was in the council brief book, so I'm going to read the amendment into the record.
Entertainment to approve Resolution 82, 2018.
So
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley.
Okay, the county executive shall appoint a single officer to head each department or agency of the executive branch and the assistant director of administration, and may remove the same at his discretion, and shall also appoint the deputy directors of each such department or agency. Within 6 months after each election for county executive, the county executive shall appoint the assistant director of administration and all heads of each department or agency of the executive branch as defined by Section 502 and 503 of this charter and the Code of Wicomico County, subject to confirmation by the council as required by Section 315 of this charter, provided that this sentence does not apply to the then appointed and serving deputy directors. The county executive shall also appoint the members of all boards and commissions in the executive branch, except as otherwise provided for by law, subject to confirmation by the council as required by Section 315 of this charter. All employees of the executive branch, other than those specifically provided for in this charter or the Code of Wicomico County, shall be appointed and removed by the heads of the several agencies of the county government in accordance with the provisions of the county personnel law. And I'll also like to mention that this resolution does require a supermajority to pass.
Okay, we have a motion and a second discussion, if we could, please.
I think this should address the concerns that the executive had about the deputy directors not being subject to confirmation 6 months after election, which I think that was probably the reason that this was brought to your attention, part of the reason. I would like to make an amendment, or suggest an amendment to this. So when reading this over with our attorney, I mentioned something about the appointment of the director of administration 6 months after each election, the appointment and confirmation. And he mentioned that it's not explicitly in there, although it's been interpreted that way. So, I mean, that's something I believe has been practiced since the beginning of the executive form of government. I mean, we reconfirmed Mr. Strasburg by 7-0. I think all of us agreed to that, in 2015. So, since that's been practice, I think it might be good just to ensure that it's in there. So I would make a motion to amend this to say the director of administration and the assistant director of administration in the first sentence, and then in the second sentence, say the county executive shall appoint, amended, the director of administration and that goes on to the assistant director of administration. So it would make it consistent with the other amendment, because that talks about the director of administration too, and it would make it consistent with what practice and interpretation of the charter has been since the past 12 years or so. So that would be my motion to do that, and I believe you all have a copy of that.
Some motions or second.
I'll second it. I have a question. You said it's been done,
Yeah.
but it wasn't in the charter to do. At whose direction do you recall why we were doing it?
I believe that's how the county attorney has interpreted the charter.
The prior county attorney.
Yeah, I mean, I believe so. I mean, that, I thought that was the practice, and I thought that was established, so.
Okay.
Since that-
I'll second. That's fine.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Mr. Taylor?
I wasn't here when that appointment was done, so I have no real view on it one way or the other. I don't know whether Paul or Wayne or somebody who was here then might be able to elaborate on it, but I assume it was just done as a matter of good practice and not as a charter requirement. Speaking now of the reappointment of the Director of Administration.
Well, as far as this amendment is concerned, what is being suggested as an amendment to the current resolution,
Well, I think
does this compromise any part, in your opinion, of what the initial intent was on the part of this initial resolution?
I don't think it compromises it, but it is somewhat different, because that was not discussed previously in our charter amendment work sessions. I mean, it is somewhat different in that sense.
Well, you say different, I mean, is it?
Well, in other
is
words,
it
we
different in
didn't,
a
we
good way
didn't,
or a bad way?
we didn't discuss at all the, I'm going to call it reappointment of the Director of Administration after each election. There was just no discussion on that within the past several months. So this is a new aspect of it. And as Mr. Kilmer points out, it seems to be consistent with what the practice has been, even though it wasn't a charter requirement at the time.
All right, well,
Yeah, I mean, I thought that it was, I mean, I was surprised when you pointed out that it wasn't in there. You know, it wasn't explicitly in the charter that we had to do that. I mean, I think we all had assumed that that was what the charter said, and I think that's what the interpretation was. And I don't necessarily think that if it's not put in there, that the Director of Administration wouldn't have to be appointed next time, because that's what the county attorney interprets the charter as. But it's good to make it explicit, in my view. I mean, I'm not trying to be controversial either.
Yeah,
So-
if this amendment that Mr. Kilmer's made, it goes through, then it would have to be, the Director of Administration would have to be appointed again after each election.
Yeah. And he has been,
that's fine. I don't see a problem with that.
yeah.
That's why I say it's consistent apparently with what the practice has been.
Okay, any further discussion from council? All those in favor of the amendment as written and introduced for Resolution 82, 2018, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Amendment to Resolution 82, 2018 has been accepted. Further discussion on the Resolution 82, 2018 as amended. Seeing none. All those in favor of Resolution 82, 2018 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution has passed unanimously, at least unanimously by supermajority.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Mr. Cannon, there is one thing, this just occurred to me, I'm sorry I didn't think about it earlier, but I believe, given the change that you all have just passed, that the wording of the ballot question may have to be changed, because what we're doing now is somewhat different from what we did before.
I can work with Mr. Wilbur on that, because he has to submit that to the Board of Elections by the 20th.
Is there any need for that to come back before council?
The ballot question itself does not.
Okay, so okay, good, I just wanted to
It will
make
be
sure.
emailed out to everyone so
Yeah,
you can
since
see it.
we're all here, I
but
just wanted to make sure we didn't have to come back again.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah.
Okay, let me find out where we are on the agenda. This time we open the floor for public comments. No public? Do your children have any like to say?
They got uniforms, man. They can hear us.
That concludes public comments. Any council comments? Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.